Hi, Matt Stait here for the Festival of Martial Arts. And today I've got with me Dr. Chris Walton. Hi, Dr. Chris. How are you?
I'm very well, Matt. Thank you very much. How you doing, buddy?
I'm good, my friend. Thanks for coming on and thanks for agreeing to be part of the festival. So I always start these things the same way. Can you give us a bit of an introduction about yourself, who you are and what you do?
Yeah, sure. I'm a doctor of integrative medicine and a performance psychologist. So that's a right old mouthful. And normally people say, well, what's that? So integrative medicine is looking at the person as a whole, looking at what the symptoms are, looking at their mindset, looking at their nutrition, looking at their toxicity, looking at their overall body as a whole and their energy systems of their body to find out what's actually the cause of the issue and then find the exact remedy to deal with that cause. So it's really sort of different type of medicine, if you like, to the mechanistic stuff we have today. And the performance psychology is something I've been into for a long time, which is what it says, how can we get our mindset into our best state, our best mode? How can we program our mind so that we can perform our best, which could be sport, which could be at work, which could be a good person, whatever we think performance means to you, So it's how we can get the best out of our mind and body.
Fantastic. Yeah, no, that's there's lots of interesting things to discuss on that. So the first thing then, when you talk about integrated medicine, now again, we've all heard the term alternative medicine. So why is it different? What's different about it?
That's a great question, mate. That's a really, really good question. The difference generally with alternative medicine is they'll have an alternative to drugs.
Mm-hmm.
With integrated medicine, sometimes you need drugs. Like in the way I work, I'm testing your body, and I'll always look for natural methods because they're always less toxic and generally better. But sometimes you need a drug. Sometimes you need a drug to knock out an infection or a virus or something. So with an integrated approach, there's nothing left out. You use what's needed to get the job done. That's the best way I'd describe the difference between alternative. Yeah.
Yeah, that kind of makes a lot of sense as well. So, okay. And now with the mindset stuff then, so moving swiftly onto that, because that's kind of where the focus is today.
Yeah.
Now, where most people are aware these days just how important the mind is and how you think about the world. But are there any sort of hard, solid sort of facts on this? Is there anything that for people who are sort of non-believers, is there any way we can convince them?
Well, it's interesting. It's one where at school, I don't know about you, but I never learned what the mind is. You don't learn what is the mind. You talk about it, you hear it, but what is it? I got a master's degree in psychology, and I never learned what the mind is. I never tell you what the mind is. So the definition of the mind is an interesting one, and I call it an energy and information field that flows through the brain, every cell of the body and beyond the body. That's really what the mind is. The mind's not what the brain does. That's part of it. But we're broadcasting a signal all the time. We're broadcasting our mental energy. We're broadcasting emotional energy. And we're broadcasting physical sensations. These are things we can measure outside of the body. So the mind is very untapped in almost all of us, and there's these two aspects, our conscious mind and then our subconscious mind. And understanding the difference between those two is often the difference between winning and losing, failing and succeeding, enjoying yourself and having a shitty time, because most of what we do, what we think, how we feel, how we perceive, how we make meaning is all done at that subconscious level. And most of that is learned programs from our younger years right the way through to our teenage years. So most people are operating off outdated programs of the past in the present that's causing the same emotions, the same sensations, the same thought processes as the past. Now, that might be good or it might be bad or it might be neutral, but what you want for real performance, again, whether that's on the martial arts mat in any form or any area of your life, what you want is alignment between what you want to achieve consciously in your mind, your goals, what you want to achieve. You want to make sure your subconscious is fully aligned with that so there's no conflict. Because if we have a conflict between what we want consciously and what's bubbling away subconsciously, that's a stress response in the brain. In the physical body, that's a stress response in the brain, which drips stress chemistry into the body. Then we tend to pull back. We don't go for it. We can't think clearly. We don't make so good decisions, etc., etc. That's because of a misalignment of the mind. And we've all experienced this to some degree. The most obvious is there's New Year's resolutions where we've got all the gusto, the motivation. I'm going to lose weight. I'm going to get fit. I'm going to X, Y, and Z. you give it till the end of February, and that's just plummeted away. The goal hasn't gone, but just subconsciously you're not in alignment with making that happen, and so you feel stressed. You're not even really sure why you don't do it. It just doesn't feel right, and you don't do it. So the absolute key, I think we've all experienced this to some degree or another, where we have inner dialogue or emotions that don't really feel they're helping us moving forward. You could have a difficult conversation at work, a meeting, a presentation, a pitch. And because you feel a bit anxious and whatnot, you're not consciously thinking that. You're not consciously choosing to be anxious. It's subconscious programs depending on what's going on in your mind. So the key to all performance, mate, is making sure that subconsciously you're fully aligned with what you want to achieve. Because we have to realize, like I said at the start, the mind's an energy and information field. You're broadcasting your information 24/7. So that's how it is. If you don't believe that, that doesn't matter, but that's how it is. That's fact, right? So your mind's either working for you or it's not working for you, or it's a bit in the middle. And you want your mind working for you to help you, to drag your attention here, there, and everywhere, which may give you some information to move you further along your journey. You might meet people, you might have a conversation with people because you're broadcasting a certain energy field that connects and resonates with other energy fields to help you along your journey. And that's sort of how it works both ways, So that is the absolute key. And I've seen this because I'm able to test the mind in my one-to-one practice. I've seen this for the last 20 plus years, the disconnect between what we want consciously and what's going on subconsciously. And you see that often with things like money and relationships and career success and business success. What you want is not really what's happening. A lot of the times that can be strategy, process and product, but most of the time there's a lot of just conflict in the mind, not actually allowing you to be your best self, to think the best and to crack on and do the best you can, and that's all down to your mindset.
So how do you see that in yourself then? Because again, as you mentioned, a lot of people have it with money, relationships, things like that. And you often hear people say, oh, I want to be a millionaire, or I want to write a best-selling book, or I want to be a movie star, whatever it is. But there's just no way with the actions that they're taking in that moment, they're ever going to get there. So how do you identify within yourself? What are some of the sort of red flags, if you like, that you can see that your subconscious is stopping you from moving forward?
Yes, that's another good question. The real way to do it is notice your emotions and notice your sensations and notice your inner dialogue. So it could be, I've got a competition on the mat, or a weekend competition in martial arts, or a fight, or I've got a business pitch, or, I've got a difficult conversation with my wife, or I've got to speak to my children. And this is what you want to happen. In your conscious mind, this is what you would like to happen. But subconsciously, you don't feel in flow with that you've got to do. When you tune into it, you feel anxiety or self-doubt or fear or frustration or some emotion that's not actually helping you produce your best, speak the best, say the best, do the best. So you find contraction a little bit in your body. But mostly, for most human beings, we notice it at the emotional level because that's what we feel. That's how we feel. And of course, that shows you straight away. If you're in alignment with consciously what you want to do and subconsciously all your beliefs and emotional reactions are in alignment, that's flow. That's the zone. We could even call it success mode. That's all of you moving in the same direction with clarity, confidence, and purpose. But when you're not like that, you feel edgy, anxious, doubtful, worried, etc. Well, you're not consciously choosing that. If you are, you're a nutcase. You're not consciously choosing those emotions. They're just automatic bubbling away based on the way you're perceiving either outside or perceiving inside what you've got to do. And if you're in alignment, you can flow and you have easy access to your skills, knowledge, and experience. And if you're not in alignment, that's when you feel more stress, and that's when we notice it. So that's how you know there's a disconnect.
And I think with that as well, and this is my next question coming up, is it's not just you that knows that's happening. The other people can read that as well. They can sense it to a degree. So that's bringing me to my next question, because you talked a lot about energy a moment ago, and I know people sometimes use the term vibrations and things, and some people sort of think that these kind of conversations are a little bit woo-woo, but it's what's interesting to me is that if you go back throughout martial arts history, from all over the world, people that lived completely separate lives geographically, had no interaction with one another because it was that long ago, they all found that there was more to us than what's just visible. So whether that be chi energy or ki energy, those kind of things. And so when we talk about, as you said there, the energy that you put out in the world, can you explain that a little bit more to us, what that means, and again, how that manifests?
Yeah. So I call it your personal energy signature, because that's exactly what it is. It's unique to you only. Your physiology, every cell of your body's got a vibration, and you're emitting that vibration into the world beyond your body. Emotionally, you can measure emotional energy 15 to 20 feet outside of the body. You can measure the electromagnetic frequencies when somebody's feeling love, kindness, gratitude. You compare that to when they're feeling angry, frustrated, and stressed, and you see it's completely different type of frequency on a graph that you can actually measure outside the body.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. You can measure the activity of the brain without touching the brain. There's something called a magnetoencephalograph, which is a big machine that you sit in, but nothing touches you, and
Right.
it's measuring the energy coming off your brain. So there's no physical touch, it's measuring energy. So, you know, these are real fields where these energy fields come off the body. Now, at the deepest level, these are called biophotons. Every cell of our body is emitting little frequencies of light. Every cell, obviously far too small for us to see with the naked eye. So we're emitting this light quite literally from every cell of our body. And if we're aligned, Matt, consciously and subconsciously, then we are coherent. That's the word. We are emitting a coherent frequency. And exactly what you said earlier, when you're in the presence of somebody that emits a powerful, coherent frequency, hey man, it feels good. It feels nice to be around those people, and not necessarily special people. They might just be happy people, you know, happy, balanced, normal people that feels nice to be around because it's a coherent signature. If you're around somebody that's stressed a little bit or full of conflict or whatever, then you're around an incoherent frequency. And that incoherent frequency doesn't feel so good. And like you say, you not only pick that up intuitively, but you pick that up in the facial expressions, the body language, the way the tone comes out, because you can tell there's something not quite right here. And that's when our intuitive sort of sense goes, something, is this person real deal or is he bullshitting or something? You know, you have little doubts, little concerns about that interaction. But it all comes down to these biophotons that we're emitting every single day from every cell of our body, you know. So that's the real nitty-gritty of it.
Yeah, so that's fantastic, because basically what you're saying is there's genuine science behind this. We're not talking about you know, some sort of hippie woman in a skirt talking about chakras or auras or things like that, even though I'm not dismissing those. What I'm saying is it can be scientifically measured, which is which is incredible. So how do we now think about that in a way with, say, regard martial arts performance enhancement? So how do we tally up that side of it to the actual to a physical application? So as an example, if I wanted to run faster or jump higher or kick harder or whatever it is, how do you align those to work in tandem?
Yeah, excellent. So the way I do it, and I did my whole PhD dissertation on this, right? So the way you do it, there are 6 core belief statements, and you add the end context onto each of these 6. And you want to make sure these 6 statements are fully integrated into your subconscious, so that when you say them, when you think them, there's no stress response, you're in flow. So let's keep it simple, and you can put any sporting context, any business context, any context in your life, but we'll keep it simple. So let's just say, Matt, at the moment, let's say you can run a 10-minute mile and you want to be able to run a 7-minute mile. Well, obviously, you can program your mind, but without doing the work, that's not going to happen, right? You know, it's not magic. But what you want to make sure is that deep down, you believe at the subconscious level, you can run a 7-minute mile. Now, if you believe it deep down, it doesn't instantly mean you're going to go and do it from 10 to 7. That would be a big jump. But what it does mean is what it will make you do and allow you to enjoy is the training that's required to get you down to that 7 minutes, you know? Right. So, for example, many moons ago, I trained a squash player, Australian squash player, and he was in the top 6, and he come to play. He was coming to the British Open tournament, which is the equivalent of Wimbledon in tennis. You know, it's a big tournament. The British Open is like a massive world ranking tournament that they all want to win, like everybody wants to win Wimbledon. So I tested him. I've got a way of testing him. I'm going to show this demonstration at the festival, which is a really cool demonstration to see, because you can see a before and after when somebody does an internal subconscious change. You can see a change in their body. So it's a great demonstration. So I tested him, and he got this demonstration, this tournament coming up, the British Open, and I tested him, and the first statement was, I'd get him to say out loud, "It is safe for me to win the British Open," right? I believe this 100%. And I test him, and his body says, his subconscious says, no. Now he's flabbergasted. Like, this is an elite athlete with fitness like, you know, off the chart fitness, 32 beats per minute, resting pulse off the chart fitness, right? So he was flabbergasted. I deserve to win the British Open. I believe it's 100%. Weak. All parts of me are ready, willing, and able to win the British Open. I believe this 100%. He tested weak. So these are examples of very core statements that if you're testing weak, that means subconsciously you don't believe it. Now, remember what I said at the start. If you don't believe it, you've got a conflict, and a conflict is stress response in the physical body. So once you change that and reprogram that, so you believe those all the way down, deep down you believe them, in any context, then you're in alignment. So as it happens, he went off 2 weeks later to the tournament. It was held at the Crucible in Sheffield, where they play the snooker. And I went to watch, and it was phenomenal. And in the semi-finals, he got to play the world #1, which at the time was a guy called Peter Nicol, an amazing player. And he'd never beaten him before, and it went to 5 sets. And in the 5th set, he beat him 15 points to 13. So he beat the world champion in the semis. He then went on to the final, and he beat a French guy and thrashed him 3-0. And he won the British Open. And the only thing he did differently, Matt, the only thing he did different was specifically reprogramming his mind to that tournament. That's the only thing. His training, his sleep, his nutrition, his rest, everything was the same. So it was a real, specific goal and a specific result. So that's how it works. It's not magic, but aligning the minds, sending out that broadcast, allowing you to do what you need to do in a state of flow and not stress, gives you the best chance of achieving your goal. And that's the key.
Yeah. I think if we're honest with ourselves, I think the vast majority of us could ask ourselves some of those questions and see that within ourselves. If we're being honest, I'm funny enough, I'm going to go off and think about that myself. So that leads us on then to what you're going to be doing at the festival, because you've already mentioned a little bit about what you've just said there, but can you sort of flesh that out a little bit for us? Yeah,
I'm going to do a little presentation. I'm super excited because this is my favorite one. So it's basically called How to Have a Peak Performance Mindset. Right?
Fabulous.
How to have a peak performance mindset. And in this presentation, I'm going to show you exactly what a peak performance mindset is from the brain perspective, the brain waves. I'm going to show you how do you get the brain and mind into peak performance mode. I'm going to show you that. Then I'm going to get somebody out the audience, and I'm going to test their subconscious mind with a goal that they have. And it could be anything, martial arts, money, anything. It could be anything at all, right? And I'm going to test their subconscious to see if they are in alignment subconsciously with what their goal is. And if they're not, which I'll find something they're not, then I'm going to take them into a technique that I created, which is called the Gamma Mindset Technique. And this creates this peak brain state, the flow state, where you can rapidly reprogram the mind. Takes a minute or two, right? A couple of minutes, and then you're going to see me test again. And now we'll test the subconscious, and now you'll see, the subconscious is now fully in alignment with that goal. There's no stress response now. There's alignment and flow around achieving that goal. And it's a really cool demonstration to see, because you can actually see a pre and a post difference in the physical body, which makes it very sort of real, and particularly for people like martial artists who are already very grounded in their body and stuff. So it's a very, very exciting presentation. And then I'm going to do we're going to do a group session where I guide everybody into the Gamma Mindset Technique, and we do this technique together. So it's going to be a very exciting presentation, but also very interactive as well. And we'll do some good Q&A as well.
Oh, fantastic. No, that sounds amazing. And I'm sure something that we can all benefit from. Now, very quickly, because I know you're a busy guy, how can people reach out to you if they want to speak to you before the festival itself?
Yeah, really easy. 2 words, Gamma, Gamma, Gamma Mindset. That's my website. That's my business. You'll find me on all the socials with that.
Fantastic. So thank you very much, Chris, for coming on today and having a chat. And thank you for coming to the festival. I'm sure lots of people are going to be looking forward to your presentation.
I appreciate it, man. I appreciate the invite too. I got really excited about it because, I started martial arts back in 1981 with Lao Gar Kung Fu and getting excited with the Bruce Lee videos, So it's been a long time. I have a lot of love and a lot of gratitude for the martial arts because it kept me on the straight and narrow during the teenage years, So I'm really looking forward to being with a community of martial artists and delivering this presentation. I'm super excited about it, mate.
Oh, fantastic. Thank you. We look forward to seeing you then.
Fantastic.